Palma DHS-1 is the first headphone in the entire world which is a convertible. Think about it like a cabriolet. It is a full-sized dynamic headphone which can go from closed to open with just a slight movement of your hand. When speaking about a flagship headphone, we first have to mention the pricing. Palma DHS-1 is priced at 2,195 euros, or US dollars if you may. The price in the USA should be similar to the price in Europe for the Quantum, although the rate exchange between the US dollar and the euro isn't exactly one-to-one. As you can see from the colorful design, this is a headphone which has a strongly metallic construction with metallic outer ear cups, metallic yolk support mechanism, a headband which is made of leather and metal on the inside, and this wooden part which has a very important role for the sound. The cable is connected to the headphones by a 2.5mm mono connector, which is unusual, and I was not able to test many aftermarket cables as I don't have any aftermarket cables with the 2.5mm mono connector, but once you put them on your head, you actually feel quite comfortable. The reason is that both the ear pads are made of a thick and dense sponge. The headband does an excellent job at distributing the weight of the Palma DHS-1, and although they are heavy at 500 grams for the headphones, you never feel the weight. What you feel is a blessing of comfort. Now, the company includes 3 cables with those headphones, 2 of which are quite short at 1.2 meters. This is one of those shorter cables handed in a 4.4mm balanced connector. The other 2 cables are one which is short ended in a 3.5mm single-ended connector and one which is much longer but in a 6.35mm single-ended connector. Basically, there is no long balanced cable, which is a bit of an issue since I have a lot of good DAC amps using a balanced connector, but I digress. It's still great to have a balanced connector included from the factory. Most high-end headphones don't even include one, especially in the 4.4mm balanced jack. The official package also includes a few other surprises, one of which is the transport case, which is very well made. It offers good protection for the headphones. There is so much extra, I didn't know that those things were going to fall off. I typically explore the product since I listen to them, but there is a beautiful, slightly perfumed pouch included in the package. It has a really beautiful smell to it. Wow, like a high-end perfume. But anyways, this is the transport pouch, which will offer protection against scratches, but not against crushing. There is a little cable organizer included in the package. I also found a wooden ball inside the package. I don't quite know what this is or what I'm supposed to do with it. I promised I would ask Palma before publishing the full written review, so I should check out my full written review to know what the ball is. I also have the longer cable, the shorter cable, another pouch for the cables. This is a pouch only for the cables. Also, very nice smell on the pouch, slightly perfumed. No, typically stuff which arrives at my doorstep smells like the result of an industrial process. They are very rarely good smelling, because electronics aren't supposed to smell good. It's usually a combination of silicone, carbon, and metal, which doesn't have a smell which is particularly appealing to humans. But this is nice. And we also have one of the most important things in here. This is the measurement of the headphones. Palma measures every single pair of those headphones because they are using this wooden part in the construction. This has a different resonance point for every single piece. They should be similar enough that you'll hear the same things as I do if you purchase one, but they can be slightly different. This measurement chart has a detailed measurement of the closed and the open back modes. So as you can see, there are 2 lines. They don't represent the left and the right channel. They represent the closed back and the open back modes. And if you take a really close inspection, you will see that they are really close. So one of the things with the Palma DHS-1 is that it is a company which designed the way for the same headphone to be open and closed, but they sound almost the same. The signature, the timbre, the presentation is very similar. What differs, for example, is the soundstage. The open back mode has a much wider soundstage, and I didn't want this review to sound cliché. When you switch to the open back mode, it just sounds more vivid, more dynamic. The soundstage is wider, the instrument separation is much better, and the whole sound just is more alive. While in the closed back mode, it is much better for monitoring. You have a much better precision. Everything is shorter. The sound is more dry, more fast, it is much quicker, and also more analytical. So they're two very different signatures, but in the same sound, which is mostly a mid-centric, neutral kind of sound. And Palma DHS-1 is the only headphone which I know of which does this. The open mode allows you to have the driver exposed directly, and it looks like this, while the semi-open mode or the closed mode has a mesh inside which protects the driver. I would call this semi-open, and I would call this semi-open and semi-closed back, because a fully open headphone would have just a metallic mesh and expose the driver completely, while Palma DHS-1 is more of a dampened open, so you have a high amount of damping. Also, the closed mode is just a mesh, it is not fully closed. You will still hear quite a bit of sound from the outside. In fact, it doesn't add that much passive noise isolation, and it leaks almost as much as the open mode. So they are very similar in the amount of passive noise isolation and leakage. The two modes actually have a very different tuning, very different presentation, but not a very different amount of closed versus open. That doesn't stop them from being awesome, don't worry. The company created a full-sized headphone with two sonic modes. You can even have it slightly open or slightly closed if you want to mix the two modes, because this is a fully analogic thing. It doesn't click into place, you just hit the end of the thing. Just listen to the sound it makes. The headband can creak a little bit because it's a real letter piece inside. You'll hear this sound. And this is because the lateral swiveling is only provided by the headband. So there is no lateral swivel mechanism. As you can see, this is fully solid. So if you want to have any kind of lateral swivel, which will be needed for some heads out there, you'll have to let the headband do the thing. So this is why it tends to have that bit of noise. It's nowhere near as bad as what Focal has when it comes to creaking noise. And once you put them on your head, you don't hear it. So that was a problem with Focal Clear, for example, where while I was wearing them, they started creaking on my head. I was a bit afraid, actually. Palma DHS-1 is really fun. So besides the cable and the little adjustment part, the sound is incredible. They sound very similar to Dan Clark Audio Expansion, so one of the best headphones out there, which is also twice the price, because the Palma DHS-1 is $2,200 while the Expanse is $4,000. It sounds almost like something twice the price, but almost. Because in open mode, Palma DHS-1 is quite neutral. It doesn't have a very uplifted bass. It has a neutral bass, but with a natural speed, very colorful mid-range. The mid-range has such a nice expression, such a nice emotion, and such a nice resolution. The detail is incredibly good. It also has a superb, rich presentation for all instruments. It is not edgy, nor is it harsh or fatiguing, but it is very detailed. The treble is on the smoother, silkier side, although it is a fairly bright headphone where you can hear the treble. It's not quite as forward as the mid-range. So in general, it's a very balanced headphone with a natural tuning, but kind of mid-centric in the end. The Expanse has more bass. It has a more voracious bass impact. It has not such a forward mid-range, but a similar amount of dynamics and a slightly improved resolution. It's not necessarily a fair comparison, but a very good reference point. In fact, I should start comparing everything to the Expanse, since it is the best sounding headphone I have heard. In the past, it used to be LCD5, but nowadays I prefer the Expanse over the LCD5 due to its construction, comfort, and also a much easier to drive design. LCD5 was atrociously hard to drive. Like, it took such a high power to sound good. Now, Palma DHS-1 wanted to make high quality sound available for everyone. So they're easy to drive. In fact, they are so easy to drive, I was able to enjoy them with dongle DACs. Even the little Lotopo S2 here has a beautiful sound with the Palma DHS-1. So it really is easy to drive. Most dongles should do just fine with them. They don't require a lot of power because the SPL is quite high and the impedance is quite low, but they are not sensitive to source noise, nor do they change character a lot with different sources. For example, they would sound pretty similar across all sources, regardless whether you are using a HiFi EF400 or HiFi Serenade. The sound will be very similar. And this is a recurring theme with the Palma DHS-1. Everything you do to them, they end up sounding very similar. It ends up being the same sound. Sound which I love a lot. So it's a very good sound, and the company explains why the closed back mode is not quite as good as the open back mode. It's more of a necessity to close them down, not necessarily a choice. The reason is that when you have a closed back headphone, you get the sound coming from the front of the driver right into your ears. Then you have the sound coming from the back of the driver, hitting the ear cup of the headphone, and then back into your ears. If the delay between the two sounds is large, you will hear it either as a distortion or it will not make sense for your brain. Our brains aren't adjusted to having a echo to our sound. It is not something we are used to, especially in the microsecond part. Palma dedicated a lot of time to dampen the ear cups so heavily that the delay between the forward sonic wave and the one which is reflected is very low. So they are very, very tightly controlled, which results in a fairly dry and precise sound in the closed back mode. You just hear the sound ending faster, as in the open back mode, it just resonates with the room, there is more psychoacoustic interaction, and that's how it ends up sounding more dynamic and wider. Overall, at around $2,000, Palma DHS-1 is a truly innovative design. It's true innovation, it's beautiful. The wood used is real African sapwood. It's super nice in the comfort, and I think it's a really good start for a new company. Palma DHS-1 is made in Europe, Spain. It is the first headphone I'm reviewing from Spain, and I'm really hoping that the company will thrive. If you get a chance to hear them, I totally recommend you to do that, and I hope that you will watch more videos on Audiophile Heaven. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope we'll see each other really soon. Bye!